Finally, a Pan-African film distribution has arrived on the continent by Africans and for Africans. And also, Lewis Hamilton, seven-time champion of the Formula One sport, has promised edge of the seat performance in Brad Pitt's F1 movie starring Damson Idris and directed by Joseph Kosinski. Is that the case? Well, we'll be finding out this and more right here on the Film Mandate on YouTube. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another exciting episode, episode 46 of the Film Mandate, where we bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions both from the African front and the international scene. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me for this very episode. And moving on right into the very first story, we have an exciting news continent where we're bringing you one of the exciting information for filmmakers on this very continent, and this has to do with the collaboration among three countries, or filmmakers from three countries, to be specific, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Kenya, teaming up to bring about a pan-African distribution network to bring African films to Africans wherever they find themselves, particularly on this continent. And I even believe so that also into the diaspora. So we have an article right here on the Kenyan vibe that talks about what is happening. And then so we move on, and it reads that Screen Connect founders champion seamless Pan-African film distribution to bring African stories closer to home. And this written by Agnes Opondo on May 22nd. I read it. A new wave in African cinema distribution is underway thanks to the visionary founders of Screen Connect. This is a Pan African initiative determined to simplify and expand the screening of African films across the continent. Its founders are Nigerian creative producer Cassandra Onwalu, Kenyan documentary producer Marete Selvin, and Rwandan producer Mizero Kabana Yannick. I hope, pardon me if I got the name wrong. Incubated in 2024 under the collaborative efforts of some Fine Day Pics and GIZ's Moving Pictures program, Screen Connect aims to dismantle long-standing barriers that have hindered the circulation of African films within Africa itself. From Kigali to Nairobi, Lagos to Johannesburg, the initiative is on a mission to bring culturally relevant, high-quality African cinema to local audiences. All these to bridge distribution gaps that have often faced African viewers to look elsewhere for the stories that reflect their lives and heritage, catering to the global appetite for African stories. It's unfortunate that even with the growing global appetite for African stories, African audiences still struggle to access films from other parts of the continent, explains Nigerian co-founder Cassandra Onwalu, a creative producer and distribution strategist. We want Kenyan audiences to be able to watch great Nigerian films and vice versa. Through strategic partnerships with filmmakers, distributors, and cinemas, Screen Connect will bridge these gaps, elevate African storytelling, promote local talent, and contribute to the growth of the African film industry. Joining Cassandra are co-founders Marete Selvin from Kenya, a documentary producer and co-founder of Meraki Africa, and Mizero Kabano Yannick from Rwanda, head of operations at Imitana Productions. Together, they combine a wealth of experience in film production, marketing, and distribution, united by the goal of making African films readily accessible and celebrated on the continent. Over the Bridge. Their flagship release, Over the Bridge, is a gripping psychological thriller directed by Tolu Ajayi. Tolu is known for his work on MTV Sugar Niger and Showmax's Diche. The film follows a Fularen, a successful investment banker whose seemingly perfect life unravels when a government project his firm is handling falls apart, forcing him to confront uncomfortable truths about power, sacrifice, and social consequence. So this indeed, I must say, is an exciting news for African filmmakers all around. I mean, we were happy when streaming giants like the Netflixes and the Amazons came onto the continent, and we are still happy and with open arms would welcome more opportunities for the filmmakers in Africa. But nothing is much exciting or more exciting to have Africans who perhaps understand the African condition and the terrain very well to step into this uh, aspect of filmmaking itself. You know, filmmaking, yeah, the art of filmmaking itself is just shooting and producing a movie, but the film business as a whole cannot be complete without the distribution of the films themselves. And it is indeed exciting that not only do we have Africans producing African films, but now we are looking at the space where, just as I reported, I think last week you had three filmmakers from different places coming together to create and upgrade the production value of films to a level that can resonate with or can rub shoulders with films produced with the intention of winning awards from the Oscars and the Cannes and whatnot. And it's also exciting that finally that high caliber of thinking to bring about quality production is being channeled to the distribution arena as well. And it is exciting because we are looking at continental film growth, not just individual countries growing their film industries. Just as I have said, those will form the basis, the foundation upon which we can build the continental film industry. And one of the ways to making the continental film industry possible is having a distribution network that will link films across all Africa from all African countries and even into the diaspora. So I'm excited that these three have teamed up, and the excitement is of the fact that they are not just from one country but three different countries looking at bridging that gap that exists in Africa. As I have said, no one country can successfully build their industry alone, because as Africans on the continent, our markets are so fragmented, just as the continents, the individual countries are. So, in order to really feel the impact of our film industry, there is the need for collaborative efforts to bridge that gap. The more united we are in our markets, the more successful we'll be. Just as we can see in the United States of America and Canada, and the fact that they are able to distribute their films worldwide, we need to also look at distributing our films continent wide. And for Screen Connect founders to take this initiative to make that possible is indeed a plus. It's something to really commend. And as an African myself and also a film enthusiast, I am indeed happy for this development. And my hope is that more theater chains and filmmakers, talents will be very open to this initiative and lend their support to make this a possibility. We need to look at continental film growth because that is the way forward. In the areas where films are making hundred millions of dollars and even crossing $1 billion and $2 billion and possibly soon $3 billion, Africans, we need to also look at the possibility of being able to have a portion of the cake of the film market, and that is more than possible. Some researches I did for the previous episodes, the potential of the creative arts in Africa stands the chance of making about $20 billion and more. That is both from the music and the film industry. I can even dare say that it is possible for the film industry alone, if structured right, with having the right policies in place, that is continental policies, not just individual countries' policies, but continental policies, infrastructure to have, let's say cinemas built across, and having the right network of not just the cinemas, but companies that can provide the necessary logistics to support this infrastructure. And thirdly, having the database that cuts across all these continents, I mean, all the countries in the continent, it is possible to make over $10 billion even now. The projection is that by 2030, the creative industry should be able to make $20 billion. But I dare say that if the structures are put right, even in place now, in about 2 or 3 years' time, that is 2028, we can feel the effects of the success of such structures. So it is indeed exciting to see that there is a renaissance, I must say, a renaissance of the film industry in Africa, because one country can do it alone. Even Nigeria, with their largest population, they may be able to reasonably make decent money to sustain their industry, but that can't compare to the entire continent rallying behind the successes of films and supporting others to elevate their production value to a level where it is admirable by people all over the world. And that is what we have to look out to, up to. For Africa being the second most populous continent in the world, I think that's the way to go. With over 1.5 billion people on this continent and beyond, it is indeed a way to go. And listen, when we make our industry very attractive, very viable, there's going to be a lot of investment trooping in. Just as on another note, where you have mineral resources in the country with other nations interested in investing, so can this be if our industry is that attractive enough to rope in investments from other places. But before then, we need to put our structures in place, understand what we have, so that we can have a proper bargaining chip when we go to the table to discuss investments, because it's about time that we understand that we have that value, we have that quality. All we need to do is to put the necessary structures in place to help build the industry. So it is indeed a commendable thing to find out that as Africans, we are thinking continentally and not just locally, because locally will not work alone. Continental will break that ceiling that we are experiencing in our own individual countries. So indeed, it is a positive news to have heard that this is in place, and Screen Connect is indeed the way to go in terms of distribution. So I really commend the three individuals who are in it, and I wish them all the best in their endeavors, and hoping soon to see the ripple effects continental wide and also even globally, because not only are Africans on this continent, but they are also in the diaspora. And my hope is that their plans will not just involve Africans on the continent, but in the diaspora as well. They'll be distributing films to those regions as well. So indeed, it is exciting to have heard this news, and I'm so happy for them. And congratulations, and also I wish them the very best in their endeavors. I wish them the very best in their endeavors. So yeah, moving on from our first story to the next story. Soon enough, so actually, I think on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken, on the 25th, the F1 movie, that is Brad Pitt's F1 movie, starring Damson Idris and directed by Joseph Kosinski, director of the Top Gun Maverick, was had a premiere of the film in certain international markets, and soon enough, tomorrow, if I'm not 27th, if I'm not mistaken, it will be premiering in the North American market. But already there's been exciting news all over, and particularly with those who are part of the F1 race. Sorry, the F1 race, to be specific. And so we want to take a look at what the news have been, and then see how best we can. I mean, it's always easy to know from filmmakers to talk about their films being very good, but most often, what about those who are actually the the sportsmen of the very sports that what's it called, that the filmmakers made films on? So I thought it wise that we could read more about what they have in store for us, and then we can take it off from there. I seem to have lost my article, so just pardon me a moment to bring it up. Yeah, just pardon me a moment to bring it up, and then we can continue from that regard. Yeah, so Lewis Hamilton, who is one of the producers of the film, has praised the film, mightily, because he was more or less like a consultant of the film and helped shape the vision of the film into that realistic, gritty nature as we all desire to be. And for us who may not be part of the film, the sporting event itself, we may not understand the achievements they have chalked as a result of bringing to bear the what's it called, the bare essentials to make that a possibility. So with that in mind, I thought we could delve in a little bit further and know exactly what this film stands to, means particularly to the driving audience. Let me put it that way: the F1 driving audience, those who actually participate in the sport, to know what they have to say. And for Lewis Hamilton, he promised, an edge of the seat experience, and it looks like that is indeed the case. So I read briefly. Lewis Hamilton has expressed his pride over the great reactions he received from his fellow Formula One drivers after their exclusive first look at the new F1 movie in the build up to this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix, set to launch internationally on June 25th and in the North American market on June 27th. Sorry, so on June 27th. F1 is directed by Joseph Kosinski and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, Brad Pitt, and seven-time F1 world champion Hamilton, among other respected names. Pitt stars as Formula F1 driver Sonny Hayes, who returns to the sport to partner rookie team mate Joshua Pierce, played by Damson Idris, at the fictional APXGP team. On Wednesday evening, F1's current crop of drivers got to find out how Hayes and Pierce's stories unfolded as part of a private screening event in the Principality, with Hamilton admitting that he felt some nerves beforehand. It's been 4 years we've been working on that project, and I've been a part of it since day one, Hamilton told media after the screening. To see the first 30 pages of the story and then see it grow to the 130 pages it was in the end, to get to work on the music, curation of the cast, and to now see it on the big screen yesterday. Um, I was nervous to see what all the drivers were going to think, because it was a very, very hard balance to get it to not be just Hollywood, be authentic, but also you still need drama and chaos, chaos, underdog, and all that kind of stuff in it. Obviously, I'm not a writer, but I think the response has been great. In general, it's been a really positive response, so I'm grateful for that. Hamilton went on to share a few more details about the film's production, as well as what fans can expect in terms of the storytelling and cinematic experience. I saw the final product a long time ago, but I'm so excited for people to see it. He said, "Last night was the first time I'd seen it on the big screen. I've been watching it on my laptop for the past 4 or 5 months. Every time the iterations getting better and better. I think fans are going to, I think it's going to be keep you on the edge of your seat. The sound is incredible. The images from the car, the cockpit, we developed with Apple a new camera that's never been used. So you are capturing footage and angles that you've never seen before. I think when you are watching the racing, experiencing the racing interactions, you feel like you are in the car with us. It's something I've always wanted people to feel, but it's very hard to do it with the camera that's above us. It's a real underdog story. There's romance involved, there's competition. It's a thrill. It's a thrill. And that is what Lewis Hamilton, said about the movie, that he is executive producing. So he's not just what we call a consultant on the film. He's actually also an executive producer who lended his experience to this particular film. And it's exciting because from the article, not just him as a it's normal for an executive producer to praise a film that he's part of, but I know for a fact that, or I'm certain to a large degree that he's been very honest about it. But what really makes his comments very authentic is the fact that other F1 drivers agrees with the fact that it is very realistic. It really depicts the sport the way they experience it whenever they sit in the cockpit of the F1 racing cars and they drive off. So it is indeed exciting. And for those who have watched a little bit of the behind the scenes and a little research into this, into the making of the film of F1, the F1 was shot, you know, at the same time when these events was happening. So in as much as it's fictional, the F1 film itself was situated within a real sporting event. So if you see Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes, driving the car together with the character of Damson Idris, it is actually them in the sporting event itself. So it's not just staged. Yes, the part of this is actually staged, but it's actually staged within the real life events of the racing car in several of the Grand Prix, and it's exciting. The I'm just wondering the precision with which they ensure that they do not actually drag the entire events behind, but make sure that everything was so timely. Their cameras were positioned to capture moments when they had to Damson Idris and Brad Pitt's character have to join the lineup for the national anthems, and the timing they have to make sure to ensure that what the cars are within the race, the starting points of the race, and all that. It's exciting, and they were able to achieve it so realistically. I think let me just move on to what some of the drivers had to say when they actually participated. I mean, when they watched the screening and they were so excited about how the whole event ended up being. So let me just bring up a video posted on the Warner Brothers UK Ireland YouTube page, where you had them talking about their experiences watching the film. So let's indeed get to it right now.
The images are just incredible.
You almost get the goosebumps.
It's something magic.
I've never seen such image, and how immersive it is, when you are inside the car. Obviously, I know it from reality, but in a movie, you can really feel, the sense of speed. And yeah, it's definitely the best movie of racing that I've seen.
I sort of rate films in the amount of goosebump moments that I had, and I had 3 or 4 of them that were just really brilliant build-ups that then sort of ended in this fantastic way.
I'm a big fan of Brad Pitt myself, which he looks great as an F1 driver.
The theatre, the big screen, the sound, the emotion. Really amazing, and I'm sure everybody's going to love it.
I was curious to see if there'd be like little details that you kind of as an insider, but it was all very authentic, which was refreshing to see.
Yeah, a cool storyline and like inspirational for young people coming into it.
The research has been done. You can see that they've really taken the time to understand the sport, and I think it's a great way of actually explaining the sport to people that have not engaged with Formula One before.
Every single details of the sound of lock up and everything, it described really well, and it's actually how you hear in a helmet.
For somebody who's either followed Formula One or not followed Formula One, for somebody who's going to be new to the sport, I think it's going to be amazing, honestly.
Brad Pitt is doing his own thing, F1 is doing its own thing, and to have the crossover
This is sick.
It's the first time there is such an incredible integration between movie and the real action on the track. So I think the result is amazing.
Yeah, so there you have it. The drivers themselves experiencing the sport on the screen. And just as they said, there was an integration of the sport itself on the day of the shooting. So it was a clear integration of movie and sport, and the drivers themselves can attest to the fact that the experience feels real when you're watching the film. These are drivers who are deep into the sport. They are not just they are not spectators, and they actually participants in the sport, and they can attest to the authenticity and the realism of the portrayal of their sport, and it's exciting for them. So it's indeed a plus that, just as Hamilton said, they had to develop the necessary cameras to fit within the cockpits of the vehicles, and also on the vehicle and on the vehicles itself. So not just in the cockpit, but also on the vehicles itself to capture the necessary imagery needed for the sport. And if you ever read further about the vehicle itself, it has to be of a certain weight. So to add on the cameras, they were so concerned that it may add more weight, which may defeat the purpose of capturing the necessary reactions and scenes they needed. So they had to really take off a number of, a weight, an amount of weight off the camera to be able to work. Same just as it did for the Joseph. I'm talking about Joseph Kosinski did for the film Top Gun Maverick. They had to ensure that the cameras they put in there are the right cameras, but at the same time have the necessary weight not to overburden the plane itself. So they were able to achieve same here. And it's indeed exciting that these drivers who are participants of the sports are more excited about this, but it may not necessarily translate well when it comes to the general audiences. I hope that is not the case. I hope that based on the fact that we can receive such high praise of this film by the sports people themselves, we would experience it as well in the same manner as they did. Even more thrilling for us because we don't even know much about the sports. For those who are not the F1 sports fans, for us, perhaps we would be awed by the world that they find themselves in. And I hope it will be successful come June 27th. Pardon me, I said May 27th, but rather come June 27th. So I'm indeed excited for them, for Brad Pitt, Joseph Kosinski, Lewis Hamilton, and Damson Idris, and all the team behind this sporting event. And perhaps this may be a way of finally introducing a lot of people who are not fans of this sport to finally like this sport and hop on the train, unlike other sports just like other sports like football, soccer, and all others. So indeed, I'm excited for this film, and I'm looking forward to it release come June 27th in the American market and hopefully worldwide as well. So this sums up my what's it called? My review of the two stories as we have it. But then, just as we've begun the week, indeed it is. We can't leave the week going this way without necessarily finding out what the films that were premiered over the weekends have for us. So, moving straight on to the North American domestic market, let's take a look at some of the films, the 10 top films that were released, or some of the films that were released in the market during this weekend, and the performance of the top 10 films from the Box Office Mojo website. So on your screen, you have Lilo and Stitch, and Lilo and Stitch has dominated the North American box office market with $145 million. And this had a wide theatrical release into 4,410 theaters. 4,410 theaters, and this is by Walt Disney. So the average point is 32,993 per theater. And moving on, Mission Impossible also was released in the North American to a tune of $63 million into 3,857 theaters, averaging 16,333 what's it called per theater, $33 per theater. So yes, not but the margin between the first and the second movie is quite huge, quite huge. But yeah, it may make it back, big when people keep on going to watch it. Yeah. So moving on to number three, we have Final Destination, which dropped from number one to a tune of $19,650,000 with a total domestic gross of $89,782,397. Thunderbolts dropped from the second place to the fourth place with the domestic weekend tune of $9,164,000, totaling $171,371,728. Sinners from number three has dropped to number five, making $88,750,000 with a total domestic of $256,551,302. And also remaining at number seven from last week is Friendship, which has made $4,591,384 this very weekend to a total tune of $7,246 and 246,257 and it increased its theater count further from by 227% to a total. Sorry, it increased its theater count up to 995 theaters, and then meaning it gained a lot more in terms of the money it made previously by the tune of 227.9%. Also, moving on, Minecraft has dropped from the position number 4 to number 8 with 2,210,000 to a total domestic cum of $420,842,805. Also, The Accountant 2 has dropped from number 5 to number 9, adding $1,970,000 to a total domestic cum of $62,871,750. So $871,750. Pardon me. And also, last but not the least, on the top 10, there's still more which you can check out yourself. But hurry up tomorrow from as well from number 6 to 10, making a weekend money of revenue of $740,000 to a total domestic cum of $4,813,964. So this is the domestic box office for the North American market. So yeah, the North American market. So and then moving on from that to the international markets, let's check out what the numbers stands at the moment. So still in the general, market, the general international market, the top 10 still has Neza 2 at number one with 1.8 million, sorry, 1 billion, sorry, 1,898,629,000 and then $967. And at number two, Minecraft internationally has made 940 million dollars, $583,805. At this rate, if it still has that long legs, it's likely to make a billion. Just 60 million dollars more, and it makes a billion. So it's very possible it can make a billion by the end of perhaps June. That is if it has that long legs to stay in the cinemas. And also, Captain America: Brave New World has made a total worldwide cum of $415 million, $101,577. And also, Thunderbolts has made a total of 355 million dollars, $507,728. Lilo and Stitch, which just dropped in just this weekend, the first week, has made a total of 304 $341 million and sorry, 341,700,000. So it's very likely that Lilo and Stitch, if it keeps up the pace and the reviews are great and the word of mouth keeps going on, a billion is really in their sights. A billion is really in their sights. So yeah, congratulations to Disney for this success by opening box office return for Lilo. So Sinners comes up with $339 million, so 339 and $31,302. So that's Sinners for you. Snow White, which is still in the cinemas, has made a total of $205 million, $176,583. Mission Impossible, I think, also in its first weekend, has made a total of $204 million. $204 million. That is really a good number for Mission Impossible. Final Destination, the horror flick, has made a total of $187,132, 132 and $397, and it's almost evenly split between the North American markets and the worldwide markets as well. Also, Dogman rounds up our 10th place with $144,749,723 So this sums up my stories for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this very episode. I'll be coming your way once again with exciting stories in the following episodes this week. So thank you so much once again, and I'll come your way again tomorrow with the film mandates. I'm Papa Otu. See you soon.